Hey guys, it's Jonathan from 8 to Go. You have all seen the destruction caused by Hurricane Michael this past week. Before we begin this week's episode, we wanted to let you know how you can help. By texting Michael to 90999, you can send a $10 donation to the Red Cross to help with the relief. As you know, it's going to take a lot to help get these people back on their feet after this disaster. Thanks for your consideration. Enjoy the show. Welcome back to another episode of 8 to Go featuring Talladega. My name's Jonathan Woodward.
And I'm Timothy Hammond. We got a great show lined up for you today.
Before we go into stage one, I took a hot lap around Talladega. Take a look.
Welcome to stage one, guys. You know, Talladega is a race that John and I both look forward to every year. Talladega, Daytona, are just almost kind of like crown jewels of NASCAR. You win at restrictor plates and everyone thinks you're great.
There's just something about restrictor plate racing, the excitement, the speed, working as teammates, everything is just exciting about restrictor plate racing. Everybody loves it.
Oh yeah, it's definitely more of a team sport at those locations. More than any other track that we go to.
Yeah, with that being said, we definitely saw teammates working together today. As expected, Stewart-Haas Racing was completely dominant.
And I think that's the end of segment one. No, just kidding. But you would have thought it was the end. I have not seen a team of four cars, work that well at a restrictor plate in a long time. Like, even, the broadcast today was talking about how it's been decades that they've seen a team just dominate because usually everyone's together no matter what. But they all qualified up front and just took off.
Yeah, and they started up front and they stayed up front. And every restart they were able to stay up front. And I thought that's how they were going to finish the race was 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah, I was kind of pulling for that, kind of not. But I'm so happy that Almirola pulled it off. I don't know how he made it on fuel because his teammates were falling off on fuel. Like when we came down to that final restart, I could not believe I started seeing the 2 dip off into pits. I saw the 4 dip off into pits, and I'm like, you got to be kidding me. Everybody just start running out of gas.
Well, the reason why is because he was the trailing car in that lead four for the longest time. He didn't have to be on the throttle. He was just kind of drifting in and out, just getting up to the back bumper of the third car in line and just kind of being able to save fuel, honestly. So that's the reason why he made it to the end. And unfortunately, Kevin Harvick and Kurt Busch ran out of gas there.
Yeah, and it's funny because I've never seen a green coming down to a green flag and just cars start driving like flies. But that made that ending so much more exciting. And I want to ask your opinion on how the race ended because some people were upset, some people weren't. I thought NASCAR made great calls.
Yep, NASCAR did a good job by not throwing the yellow. There was a wreck right after the start-finish line heading into one, and NASCAR could have thrown the yellow for it, but the wrecked cars were out of the way. It wasn't a major accident. Car wasn't flipping over or anything like that. A lot of the cars that were in the wreck were able to kind of keep moving on, so NASCAR didn't throw the yellow and let the guys race back, and because of that, Kurt Busch basically had the win taken away.
Oh,
and he was probably, Kurt Busch always likes to.
In a sense, he did have the win taken away, but this is what the fans have wanted for a long time. We we hate for these races to end under caution or continue.
Yep. Alex Bowman, I picked him to win the race, and he was
He
looking
looked
good.
good.
He was getting
He really
aggressive
did.
there at the end when he really needed to get aggressive
Right.
and start moving, but unfortunately got taken out in an incident. And his chances of making it to the next round.
I thought that was the end of Chase too, because he had just clipped Eric Jones and Chase, but I guess it wasn't enough damage because Chase was back up there still.
Yeah, he went down on the apron. The 24 lost it there at the end, but Alex got the worst of it. And because of that, Alex now, he's way back in the points.
He has to win next week at
He
Kansas.
absolutely has to win next week at Kansas, which is going to be tough because you got other guys like Truex. That's one of his dominant tracks, as we know. Kansas, big track for Truex.
Yep, and I'm interested to see how this is going to go because, Boyer still looks good. Today he showed he still has some passion in there, and he's got some gas in the trunk. I don't. That was a terrible analogy, but we'll go with it.
Gas in the tank.
Hey, gas in the tank is that's what we were.
Sorry,
And we may get a first-time champion this year. I hope we do. But Harvick's still right there in the thick of things.
We're basically going to be going into the next round of the playoffs with two big runners out now because of this. We had the big three, and then Keselowski, I would put him in that picture too as being the big four for the points throughout the year. But now we got two guys that were wild cards coming into this round in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Chase Elliott and Eric Almirola.
Yeah, because if you go back to the Roval, Almirola had a terrible race. He was taking signs out. He was getting spun out. He got in a couple of wrecks. And here we are saying that he's going into the semifinals.
Yeah, he's pumped up, man. He's promising bacon for life.
Bacon for life. I almost wore my bacon shirt just because of that.
He literally had it on a little bit ago.
I decided to go with Earnhardt since we were at Talladega.
That's right. All right, we got a special segment here. We're joined on the line by one of our old sim racing buddies. Tim, you want to tell us about this?
Well, it's funny because we've actually met a lot of guys that we've raced online with, and this is a really good friend of ours, Brett Wright. Brett was at the race today. How's it going, Brett?
Hey, guys. That's great. So happy to be on the show. I love what you guys are doing, and you guys have been good friends of mine for over 10 years, it seems, and it's just great to be here. I'm actually right now looking at Talladega right now with all the grill smoke that's up in the air. It's an awesome experience. People are doing fireworks. It's just a big party out here.
Yeah, how was the race today for you being there? Was this your first time at Talladega?
No, I went to the Talladega race. I think it was in 92 or 3 when I was 12, flipped over 10 times and only won one. But this is my second Talladega race.
Okay. So I have to bring up, the first thing I wanted to bring up to you, because when I was watching the race, the stands were packed, and I was so happy about that. Because...
Yeah, I mean, it was beautiful. Like, I only saw maybe a handful of empty seats. The fans are into the race. It was very good. I was happy to see that.
Yeah, I was too, because, how was it being at the race? Stewart Haas Racing dominated this race, and that's something we haven't seen in a long time.
Well, I had mixed feelings about that. I was really hoping to see more like racing inside a pack. Like it kind of got like that with about 45 laps to go. We had the good 2 and 3 wide racing, but you could tell that the Stewart Haas cars had more power. It seemed like they would just, whenever they were mixed up in pit road and in the track, they would find each other, and they would literally run 47-90s in a group of 4, while you have a group of 20 people. Even single file are running 48-30s and 40s, which is just, I don't know what to say about that. It just doesn't seem right to me, but it was impressive to see.
Hey Brett, it's Jonathan. Man, long time no see. How was the experience? I heard you did a little iRacing earlier.
Oh, it was awesome, man. They had the Coca-Cola iRacing 10 up, and they had 4 different simulators with the pneumatic steering wheel setup, and they had the kicker, seat, it was just awesome. And they had 2 laps to qualify in Talladega, and I went in there and I did what I typically do, and I got number 1. So I was real happy about that, and I turned some heads there, and I said no pictures, and I just kind of walked away.
Did you sign any autographs by any chance?
What'd you say?
Did you sign any autographs by any chance?
I had to refrain. I just didn't have the time to do it.
Well, the rumor has it, and you're going to hear it first here on 8 to Go, Brett Wright's going to take over the number 1 car. 2019.
And I would be out there, and I was doing my best.
He'd be like Alex Bowman, and everybody'd be like, "Who the heck is Alex Bowman? Who's Brett Wright?" And then they just go out there and they make the playoffs.
Oh, I know. Gosh, he ran pretty good today too, but the Hendrick cars couldn't keep up with Stuart Haas. But something that really impressed me was Jimmy Johnson. How hard he hit the wall, and he ended up getting on the lead lap is incredible. It blows my mind how hard he hit the wall. They were able to fix his car up. It's unbelievable.
All right, Brett. Well, John and I want to thank you for joining us on the show. Our first ever caller. We hope you enjoy your time at Talladega until Tuesday. Live it up.
Oh man, thank you guys so much. I love the show. I'll be listening to all your episodes. Thank you again.
Yeah, thanks, Brett. Take care.
Welcome back, guys. This is stage 2. It was calm this week, somewhat. There was some big news. But first, we want to talk about Kasey Kahne. Unfortunately, the news that we did not want to hear, Kasey will not be back this year. He apparently had done some testing, and the doctors said that he was becoming extremely exhausted in these cars.
Just not cleared to drive.
And that's so unfortunate. It reminds me of Brian Vickers.
Yep.
Just a lot.
It's kind of interesting because on my Facebook feed, this, how it shows you your history and stuff like that. There was a thing about Brian Vickers, you and me talking about it just a few years ago. I think like 4 years ago.
I want to say it was about 4 years ago, when Red Bull Racing was around.
Yeah, man, it's unfortunate, you and me, we've been friends for just about as long as Kasey Kahne has been around in the Cup Series, and we were able to really root him on, go see a couple races that he was in. I saw him win.
He took over right after Kyle Busch left.
Yeah, he did.
He actually, I didn't realize this. He actually won 18 Cup races. I didn't realize he had won that many. But, I think back to he was dominating in the 9. He was dominating in the 5 when he first came on, and he won that Coca-Cola 600. Yep. No problem. But it's unfortunate that we won't get to see Kasey back in a car. But he does have a very successful dirt team still going on.
Right.
So, we'll still hear his name out there.
He'll be around. He'll be around at the track. He's got his son Tanner. I'm sure Tanner, we may see him come up one of these days as a race car driver.
Gordon's son.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see that next generation come up here a little bit down the road. But bigger news. This is probably the biggest news of the year.
Yep.
Chad Knaus is leaving the 48 team after 17 years working with Jimmy Johnson, and he's heading over to be the crew chief for William Byron in the 24. And it's kind of interesting because it's like it was a career goal of Chad to be the crew chief of the 24. Yeah. He had started working back in the early 90s with Jeff Gordon, Ray Evernham, and those guys on the 24. He was a tire changer for a while in the pit crew, and then he worked his way up. And he worked for a couple other teams as a crew chief before eventually getting with Jimmy with the 48 back in their rookie season. But Chad Knaus, Jimmy Johnson, it's almost like Bill Belichick and Tom Brady.
It's like a bad breakup. It hurts to talk about it. It reminds me of when Evernham and Gordon were no longer. You have that duo that can work together. They can do anything together. Like they were so dumb. How many? They won 5 in a row, I believe, right?
Yep, 5 in a row.
Championships in a row. I don't know anyone else who could say that. Not even Tom Brady.
They won 81 races, 7 championships, and just completely dominating those 5 years in a row. Everybody was wondering, can anybody beat the 48? Can anybody beat Chad Knaus and Jimmy Johnson?
I really hope those two win one of these races on the way out.
Yeah, it'd be nice to see that, definitely. Also, and we know that Lowe's is leaving too, so this is a huge deal for Jimmy Johnson.
I don't know how I would feel in his shoes, because your successes come from an amazing team, an amazing support system, and you're the oldest guy on the team now. You used to be the youngest guy when you came in, and now you're teaching the young guns everything there is to know. It shows our age now that these drivers are leaving.
Yeah, but you know what? It's happening at a good time. Chad's doing this move. It's honestly in favor of the company, Hendrick Motorsports. They really want the 24 to do well. It's such an iconic number. William Byron has the opportunity to really shine next year. He's a rookie this year, and he's getting everything together as far as experience, track time behind the wheel of the 24. Next year, we're really going to see, especially with this new aero package, it's going to come in, and he'll have the best crew chief in the business.
Without having all of the knowledge now, he has not been bad. He made it into the playoffs. Some of these longtime veterans wasn't even in the playoffs. And here he comes in and rocks it like a hurricane.
Yep, you have to think, big shoes to fill in that 24 car.
Yeah.
As we know, we both have been longtime fans of Jeff Gordon. I want to see that car in victory lane.
Yep.
It means a lot to me as a fan.
That's why I was really hoping that Chase would have won in the 24. I would have been so happy. But, Chase is moved on to the 9, which is an iconic number for their family.
Right.
And, I'm just so excited about Hendrick Motorsports and everything they're doing. I'm really excited about everything all the teams are doing. Yeah. I totally forgot about today, the Talladega race. I forgot that Stuart Haas has Yates engines. They work with Roush Yates. Roush Yates. Yoush. And, Roush isn't that good this year. And you look at Stuart Haas, what have they figured out that they didn't?
Yeah, it's kind of like the same way with the Gibbs and Furniture Row Alliance, which, by the way, next year, that is another piece of news. The 95 is going to switch over to Toyota as an alliance with Gibbs Racing. And driving that car will be Matt DiBenedetto, which is a big thing for Matt DiBenedetto. He's been wanting to find an opportunity to do well. This is going to be his big test coming in this year.
He's going to work with some great guys over at Gibbs. Those satellite teams, I always end up liking them a lot because they always come in and win a random race.
Yep.
And it's exciting and fun to see.
In a way, Levine Family Racing has the opportunity to become the new Furniture Row Racing with this deal.
Yep.
So it'd be interesting to see next year how that 95 is going to perform. All right, guys, stage 3. This is where we check in on our championship picks and our championship predictions. Yeah, so Martin Truex ends up, he's 18 points to the good.
That's going to be, going into Kansas is good for him. But anything can happen. Somebody can blow a tire in front of you, and that can end your championship hopes. It's not where you don't want to be thinking about getting knocked out and going into a race.
Because the next 4 drivers that are on the outside looking in are also pretty good at mile-and-a-half tracks. Brad Keselowski, 9th place, 18 points out. Ryan Blaney, 10th place, 21 points out. Actually, 22 points out. 11th place, Kyle Larson, 26 points out. And then Alex Bowman, 68 points out, 12th place. He has to win.
And so as of right now, Truex is on the bubble.
Truex is on the bubble. Everybody's gunning for Truex right now.
So
I'd be safe. I'd be safe if I was Kurt Busch on up because their 30 points are better.
Yeah, but I've seen engines blow, in no time. I've seen oil get left on the track, and There goes your day. I've seen pieces of track fall off and go through the front of the car. Jeff Gordon.
Kurt Busch, man, he is. I think he's like right there with being safe to make it to the next round. But Clint Bowyer, Martin Truex, hanging on.
Here's what I want to say about Ryan Blaney. I'm on a Ryan Blaney ever since he won last week. Or no, the Roval. Sorry. I think Blaney's gonna pull it off.
It's like what he did at the Roval.
Yeah. He's looking out, and all of a sudden there he is.
I knew you were gonna say it because he's one of your picks. All right, here's our picks. Tim had the 4, the 9, the 12, and the 78. All of them are in except for Ryan Blaney. Where Ryan Blaney's one of those outside looking in guys.
I don't like it.
I had the 2 of Keselowski, who is on the outside looking in.
So we both have somebody looking
We both have somebody, actually, yeah, we both have somebody on the outside looking in.
I feel more comfortable with my picks now.
I had Keselowski. I had Elliott, who's good. 18 of Kyle Busch, he's good. 78 of Truex, hanging on. Both of us have Truex. Both of us have Chase.
We do. Oh, yeah, we do. But I got him winning the whole thing.
Kansas is going to be intense.
Heading into Kansas, it's going to be a shootout. You know, I think it's going to come down to fuel, as it has the past couple of weeks. And
it's going to have your typical feel as a cutoff race.
It is. It's going to it's going to feel how Indianapolis did this year.
It's like what Talladega was for a while. Talladega was that cutoff going in the round 8 for a while.
Right. It was the
We've gotten the Roval out of the way, or that was the cutoff race for the round of 12, and now
Kansas is going to be. It offers calmer racing, more spread out, but it's a fast, good track.
Who do you got winning it, man?
I got Ryan Blaney pulling this baby out. I got Ryan Blaney winning this. He needs it.
Tim's rooting for Ryan Blaney.
I really am.
So that his championship 4 is still in.
You know, him and Chase. Their friendship is amazing.
Yep.
Really
I think we'll see the 2. I'm rooting. I want the 2 to win because I want him to keep my championship 4 alive. But then again, I don't want him to win.
Well, it's funny because Keselowski is really good at Kansas. It mirrors Vegas in a sense with how it's shaped. Not as much banking, but it has that same feel.
Yeah, so he's got the 12, I've got the 2. We're going to Kansas. That's all the time we have for on this episode of 8 to Go. On behalf of Tim Hammond, I'm Jonathan Woodward.
I don't think we're in Kansas anymore.
I don't think so either.
But we will be next week.
See you next week.